Hey, citizens of Duplication Nation, welcome to another episode of the Duplication Nation MLM podcast, also put up on the YouTube channel of the same name. If you're new here for the first time, it's a labor of love between myself and Jaime Loquier. We're kind of taking the profession back from the Ponzi schemes and the con artists, and we wanted a big kid conversation of real world, what does it take to be successful in the business? So it's never an interview. I always get a partner each week, and me and that partner, we just chop it up about anything: self-development, success routines, compensation plans, recruiting materials, using social media, the gangsters, the terrorists, the MLM zombies, just the stuff that really affects you if you want to become a top leader in the profession. So, and you just get, we don't even talk to you. You get the opportunity to eavesdrop. So my partner this episode is the lovely and talented Mr. Eugene Hong. Hey, brother, Jedi Hong, it's so great to see you again.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. It's an honor, it's a privilege. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So we were talking back and forth while you were in Korea. How did that go? How you feeling? Are you over the jet lag? How's that all working out?
Yeah. I don't know. It feels like the older I get, the harder it is to acclimate. I mean, before I remember going to Korea for like 3 months, and in a few days I'm like that. I'm good to go. Then all of a sudden here with kids, and I have the wife, and we're at the in-laws, and we're at the in-laws, right? You know how that works, right? And then I tell you, we're at her house, at her place in Korea. Everybody lives in these apartments. It's so different from America, and they only have AC in one room, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like,
Really?
yeah. So I was like, okay, so can we do something about this? So luckily we managed to go to a nice 5-star hotel for about 10-15 days, and we stayed there for a while, and the bed, a lot of it's still, you'd be surprised how advanced Korea is in technology, but like how behind it is in so many other things. And it's just, I can say this: it's so great to be back. It is awesome to be back, and to have this interaction with you right now. It is just unbelievable. Um, you made me go back and scroll my pictures because these conversations, these talks are really real for me, and I appreciate it. Number one, it's just amazing. And then I looked at it, I goes, you know what? The last time, it's a reunion, and I'll tell you why. Because this weekend in San Diego, it is the Comic Con in San Diego, and I was there the last time, maybe like 10, maybe about 7-8 years ago in San Diego, and I met you there, and we met, and it was really, really cool. So it's come full circle, which is really good. But I tell you, and I'll go back to that eventually. I want to talk to more about that. But the food is amazing in Korea. Let me ask you this, Randy. Have you been to Korea?
I have. I
Oh,
love it. I love everything Asia.
yeah.
And Korea is, I mean, I think of what you say about everybody in apartments. You see some big, big, big blocks of apartment complexes that reminds me of the Soviet era. Like I do a lot of work over, I've been in Macedonia and Serbia, Croatia and Slovenia, and places that were like, even Lithuania. When you go to Lithuania, for like 20 years, they were under Soviet influence, and all the apartment buildings are pillbox, plain, stacked up, whatever. And they taught Russian in the school, and Russia was the thing. And then at some point, they made the decision to kind of link to the West, and they started teaching English in the schools. And American companies came in, and American architectural, And the difference is the Soviet era and the, let's call it free enterprise influence. It's night and day. And Korea is just, the people are so incredible. The culture is so vibrant. But I get what you're saying about there's just some things that are really old-fashioned kind of, challenges.
I tell you, when I talk about old, I mean, I'm not talking about, how it is, how modern it is. It is amazing. And I just realized that my mother-in-law makes amazing kimchi. Like it's the best I've ever eaten in my life. Like I literally drool for that kimchi. And I don't like kimchi. I hate kimchi. I didn't like when I was growing up because it was hot. It was spicy.
It's spicy, man. It's
Yeah, the
spicy.
garlic. And do you like kimchi for one thing? Do you like kimchi?
I don't. It's too hot for me.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, 100%.
She makes it in her apartment. She has these jars and she puts it in the laundry room area, and she makes her own soy sauce. She makes her own bean paste. I mean, you name it. She is so self-sufficient. It is unbelievable. And to get that raw taste nowadays, it is almost impossible because nobody does it anymore because it's too much work. It's so much easier to go to the grocery store, and they're all over, by the way. In Korea, everybody walks, right? I probably lost 15 pounds in Korea, which is pretty awesome. Get rid of COVID weight, right? But it's just, they walk everywhere. And it's like, wow, I never got used to that again. It's just coming back to LA. We drive in LA, right? Even in Hawaii, when everything is 15 minutes apart, you never walk in Hawaii unless you're on the beach, right?
No, you don't. Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
Miami's that way. Miami, you drive everywhere. San Diego, that's why I loved my place in San Diego. Like when you came down, they have all those solar. I was just there about 2 weekends ago. They have all those solar power scooters. And so other than once or twice a week, when I went to my softball field, which was way out about 10 miles, I never took my car out of the garage. I would just walk. I lived in the East Village there, or I would take those scooters. I took the scooters to my chiropractor and to the, anything, and just like Fifth Avenue, Sixth Avenue, where we were during Comic-Con, and any time of year, that is just, it's what South Beach was 15, 20 years ago. Like when I lived on South Beach, same thing. You walked around there. You had Collins Avenue, you had Washington Avenue, you had Alton Road. You could walk anywhere. It was a pedestrian, you had Lincoln Road Mall is an amazing pedestrian, they turned it into a pedestrian mall. But if anywhere else, if you're going to South Miami, Coral Gables, North Miami, you need a car because it is. And there's something wonderful about, like Paris, same thing. Paris, you can walk a lot of places. And if you don't, they have an incredible metro, right? Like if you try to wait for a taxi in Paris, you might be waiting an hour. But if you just hop on the metro, once you get the map and you learn the metro, you might encounter a few people who may not have the highest levels of hygiene, but you can get where if you wanted to go, like when I was going to the opera, we would just hop on, and it would be an hour and a half wait for a taxi. And even Uber or Lyft, I don't even know if Lyft is there, but even the last time I was there, Uber was there. Long time. The traffic is just unworkable. It's like New York City. But you go down to the metro stop and we'd be there in 15 minutes max.
Wow, that's brave. I don't think I would have done that in Paris, catching the metro there. Wow.
Yeah, you just gotta, if you know someone there and they can say, okay, here's this ones, and the stop you want to get off. And because I found myself changing trains, going different, where I would normally be really nervous in a city that I was visiting that I didn't know that well. But their metro system is really, it's all about urban planning, right? How do they make these cities so people can really live in them and experience them and enjoy them. Like that San Diego, when remember we were having lunch, I don't remember, it was Fifth Avenue or Sixth Avenue. Those studios just go in. Like I have an art gallery that I bought that painting at. That's one of the things I bought in that art gallery. And when we were there, I walked and I said, where the hell is my art gallery? And it was a store for Picard, the news at that time, the new Star Trek show.
That's right.
And they just go to the owner and they say, hey, if you'll move all your stuff out of the store for a month, we'll give you $100,000, you know, and take a month off, and we'll pay to move everything and we'll pay to move it back. But we need a store to launch Picard. And that's, you know, and the money they spend. But you know what? That's marketing. They know how to market. That Comic-Con thing.
It's insane. It's literally insane. Yeah. And by the way, I'm digging the Aloha shirt you're wearing there, Randy.
Well, let me tell you why, because it's a real Aloha shirt from Hawaii. I was just there a couple of weeks ago, and I replenished my supply. I don't even remember the name of I'd have to dig in my color, but it's the original, the real Aloha shirts.
Yeah, I could tell.
It's a family. They've been doing them since like 1920 or something. Real cotton, real, not the crap they sell in the souvenir shops and stuff.
Yeah, no, I could tell. It's great taste. Yeah, absolutely. I was like, Randy, for me, dude, thank you. I appreciate it.
So listen, is when you went to Korea, is Yoli doing business there, or are you working there, or it was just for the fam to get away?
Yeah, no, well, it's every year I go, no matter what. Because my wife's parents still live there, and her family, and I have a lot of friends from college that live in Korea. So I go back, and we have a blast. Yoli's not in Korea, so I just go there, and I just meet up with people, and I constantly there's a place in Gangnam, like the Gangnam style, where they have this main centralized. It's like New York City in Seoul. You have all these network marketing company all in line,
right?
And I go there because sometimes, like, I have a Kangen water machine, so I'll go there because I want to get one of those the chlorine purifier. So if I run out, I go there and I get one from my mother-in-law, and I get something from here, and I realize it's so funny. And then I remember a few years ago, Art put this thing on Mastermind about the top countries in the world in network marketing and sales and generation, whatnot. And I saw Korea was like number 2 or something. And then when I went to my in-laws' bathroom, because bathroom there is so different from the bathroom here, because there you got to have wet slippers when you go in the bathroom because the floor is wet. The drain is in the middle. They just shower.
Oh, yeah. One of those deals.
You remember
those? My God, they drive me nuts.
So I'm like, okay, I'm confused again because, it's so different. And then I open the medicine cabinet and I see Amway, Secret, Herbalife. I mean, there was like 10 different companies of products. And I was like, yes, I love this because it's supporting the profession. It's great. Yeah. And of course, we had our Yoli products. I sent products, to my family, and whatnot. But it was just great. And it's just so, network marketing there, it's so different from here. Everybody buys product. There's so many people buying it as a customer. It's just great. And by the way, I hope my tooth doesn't kind of irritate me because I chipped it right before I left.
Oh, really?
And I was supposed to get it fixed, but I haven't. So, hopefully we can CGI it out, nowadays with.
We'll do some CGI.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think Japan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Taiwan, all those places I've been there, that a huge retail culture, and a lot of the main cities are the same as Seoul, where it's like in San Diego, we call it the mile of cars. There's like 1 mile on that every car distributorship is there. here in Miami on Biscayne Boulevard, you go to every car distributorship. And in those cities, it's like the mile of network marketing companies, because they're all just there's the Herbalife building, there's the Oriflame building, there's the whatever. It's the culture there is amazing.
So on our way, we're driving around Seoul, and I see, like, like lights, for example. If you want to buy lights, you go to this one area, and it's not just a store, it's the whole freaking block that's selling the same product. And I'm like, how the hell do they survive? Are they in competition with each other? And the answer is no, they're not. It's so weird. They have 10 different stores selling the exact same thing, and they've all been there for years. And I asked my mother-in-law, so how does this work? And they go, oh yeah, well, this guy will get one and he doesn't have this, so I go here, but I go here. And they all know. Like, it's really insane how the community, how small, no matter how big it is. I mean, it's a big city. I mean, it is huge. You can get lost because, just buildings. It's kind of like New York City in a way, but like a smaller version. But the landmines are just so different unless you're in the country. There's not many mountains unless you're a certain part of Seoul. So it's really hard to get your calibration. But it is insane. You have the metal area where it's all metal, the industrial, the lumber area here, and everything is all in different sections. And they all go there, and it's just unbelievable how they stay in business.
But, I think people just know, like, okay, if you need lights, you got a special light bulb that's hard to find, or you want a lamp or whatever, go to the light district. Like here, it's the Diamond Exchange. We have a Diamond Exchange here in North Miami, and there's like 400 diamond dealers under one roof. And you just walk, it's like a flea market. You got, you want to buy diamonds or you want to sell diamonds, you just walk down and you make a deal with whoever.
Yeah. So I noticed, like in New York, they have that diamond district, right? In New York, there's diamond district, and like there's a small one, like the jewelry district, the bank district. But like, I've never seen like the LED light district where it's all LED.
Right.
It's more specific, it's more like diamonds or something like that, but it's just a different country. So it was very unique to see that, and was pretty interesting. Yeah.
But Yoli is not open there?
No.
So like, how many countries is your company in, and like how many are you building in?
Just 3 right now. We're in just US, Canada, and the Philippines. Yeah, and I have teams in
US,
all.
Canada, and what was the third one?
Philippines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And do you build in all 3?
Yeah. So I the only place I haven't been yet was the Philippines, and that was because the pandemic. I was scheduled to go there. I was planning on going there, and then the pandemic came in, and then I just, okay, let's just take a break here, right? But I have teams, I have teams and leaders that go there all the time. So it's great to have leverage in your business, but at the same time, our leaders are great. They do well, and they're Philippine-born leaders, which is great. So I try to support them as much as I can, and these Zoom calls at 6, 5 in the morning, whatever it takes to make things happen for now. And I plan on going there hopefully next year. I think next year's the plans to actually visit the Philippines. But I noticed, like yourself, you've been traveling a lot. I've been mostly focusing on my internal teams here in the States more. My Canada team is doing okay. It's doing, as great as it can be. And the Philippines, we have an office there. We have great support. We have a great regional manager. So I'm not too worried about the Philippines, really. But at the same time, it is a great growth, because, like I said, we have a lot of Filipinos in our team and whatnot. And I love pancit. I love the culture, the food. It's me, I'm a foodie guy. You put me and Art together, and we're probably dissecting the food before we're actually eating the food.
I know that for a fact. In fact, I always ask around people like, hey, I'm doing a chop it up with so-and-so tomorrow. Anything special I should know about them or ask them? So I told Art, I was chatting with you today, and he said, oh, you need to know he is, what do you call it? A sushi savage or a sushi something.
Sushi slayer.
Slayer, a sushi slayer.
Yeah.
He can eat $300 worth of sushi in one sitting. If it's a nicer place, he'll eat $500 worth. And of course,
I tell you, I think I was in college is where my appetite of sushi really just exploded. Because in Hawaii we get fish like fresh right in Hawaii, and then when I went to college in Seattle, I still had it fresh. So I got spoiled, but at the same time, fish is expensive. As a poor college kid, I didn't have money to go buy sushi. So once I found these right places, there's a place in LA called Ichigo that I take Corey there all the time, and it is our bread and butter. The rice just melts. As soon as you put that rice in your mouth, it just melts like butter. I kid you not. And the fish, how fresh it is. It's unbelievable. And I've been to so many sushi places. I remember when I was a little bit younger, mid-20s, I would go to these all-you-can-eat places in Hawaii. And I would go there a few times and I get banned. I get kicked out. I eat all the fish. They come in and go, excuse me, sir, you need to diversify. I'm like, dude, you got a sign. It says all you can eat. I want the hamachi. I want 50, 60 pieces, and I want them now. And he had this grin on his face, and they're like OG Japanese people, so they're giving me the stink eye. They're staring at the corner. I'm like, okay, we should leave, and okay, I'll order something else on the side and whatnot. And then I order another. I think the most I ever ate was 120 pieces myself.
Oh my God,
120 pieces. And I heard people saying, "Oh, really? I ate 200." I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding here!" But it's just when I eat that, it's just heaven in every taste. It's unbelievable. Those sushi, but the nigiri, I'm telling you, it is just. I don't know if you're a fan of sushi, Randy.
No, I don't eat it at all. I like my food cooked.
There's something about the uni. I mean, I couldn't eat uni before, and I found out I can't.
What is uni? Is that a type of fish?
It's a sea urchin.
Oh, a sea urchin.
In Hawaii, we call it vana, right? It's the one with the purple, black spikes, and it looks like a black ball, and it's poisonous, on the outside.
Oh, that's the fish you eat, and it would kill you if it's not cooked right.
Well, I mean, there's that's blowfish, and I had that in Korea, by the way. Unbelievable blowfish soup, which is crazy. But the uni and eating it fresh is so different. And I think when I was young, I was eating it wrong because I would get it from the market. It wouldn't be as fresh. So there's this nasty aftertaste, and I just couldn't stand it. Once I had the good quality, it's butter. It's just my appreciation level went up like this much just because of that. Yes, blowfish in Korea. I got to tell you the story. I am in Korea. I'm at this restaurant, and I know the owner because I haven't seen him in like 10 years, and he's built his way up. The last time I met him, he was the head sushi chef. Now he runs the joint. So I'm over there with my college buddy, and he knows everybody. And along with this couple guys come in, and I haven't seen these other couple guys, and they're the local gangsters of that community. I mean, they run the town. And I'm like, I'm just so glad I'm in the right people at the right place at the right time. I kid you not. It's amazing, by the way. I had to share that story. So,
all right. So let's chat a little deeper about the business. The other thing, Art, and by the way, I know how you and Art are about food because, of course, every time Art comes here or I visit him somewhere, I can't just like today. You know where I had lunch today? I had lunch at Jimmy's East Side Diner. It cost me $22 or something, where they make their fresh meatloaf, their handmade mashed potatoes and gravy, fresh vegetables.
Yes.
But with Jonak, if it doesn't have a Michelin star, I can't take him there, you know, and
Right.
I don't know, people don't know this about him, but I think he's a cannibal, like Hannibal Lecter, because
Yeah.
I took him to we had this incredible place in my building in San Diego, in my condo, called Table Number 10. Just a private chef who did this special menu every night. And so I took Art there, and he was slurping bone marrow out of bones. And I'm just like, this is it. I'm done. This guy is a cannibal. I don't want to know anymore. But anyway, so the other thing he told me is, you got to talk to Eugene about culture, because he does such a great job of creating a culture that keeps the team moving forward, and also that culture that holds the team together when things are facing a challenge. And of course, I could talk about culture for 10 hours a day and I'd never get bored, because I just think it's probably the most important thing we do in the business. What's your thoughts, your approach on that?
Wow, that's a big word for me, the C word, because I remember when I first started in 2006, and I was just excited. Everything you wrote in your book is so true, because I had hope. I had massive hope. I was like, my mentor was Corey Citron. He was the person that signed me up, and I saw his checks, and I went, "You can make that kind of money. I am so in." And my belief level went straight up. And when I read your books, Randy, it's just like to the T. I was like, this guy read my mind. How the hell does he know what I'm thinking about? And then all of a sudden, my team starts to, there's just a couple of variations. One of the story was when I was first started building Yoli in 2009. I got so excited. It's because it's a pre-launch, right? And I know you've been through a lot of pre-launches, but it was my first time. So for
Right.
me, because I made a lot of mistakes in the pre-launch, right? And we live and learn, right? And I was so excited, and we were about to launch, and my volume was up, and it was my first check that I made, that $10,000 and I was like, oh, I did it. I was, it was, for me, it was the biggest thing in the world. Like, this is what I did it for. And then 6 months later, my team was dead. Everybody quit. I had 8 diamonds in my team. They all left. They all quit. And I went, what happened here? Pre-launch. Okay. I didn't understand the lottery mentality, where people were just trying to see if the company sticks like spaghetti on the wall. Does it stick, or and whatnot? And I had to rebuild from scratch. And I was trying to think to myself, what am I doing wrong here? Is it me? Is it me? Because I didn't quit. How come I didn't quit? But then I realized I didn't quit because my mentor didn't quit. The relationship, that bond that I had with him. And I was like, oh, you know what? Did I have those bonds in the beginning? And I didn't have those bonds, because it was built on hype. It was built on excitement. So I said the friendships, the bonding, the brotherhood, it brought me back to the roots of growing up in Hawaii, where in Hawaii, everybody's because it's so small, everybody knows each other in Hawaii. So I was like, okay, if you treat everybody like family, like Ohana, maybe that's how I got started. So I started to do that, and build fun events, and build things where people wanted to be a part of, bigger than themselves. Not, in other words, if they weren't making money, they would be here because they wanted to be there, because it was so much fun. It was better than staying at home watching cable TV. It was better than the newest episodes of whatever it was that was airing. And I said, I gotta make it fun, and I gotta make it not about me. It has to be about them. That's when I read this book called Duplication Nation, the CD set that I bought. Like, holy, everything changed. But going back to culture, it was so important, because when I lost it all, when everybody left, I was like, I do not want to experience this ever again, because it sucks. To
Yeah.
do to start all over, it's really painful. It's not easy. But at the same time, I still had my dream, regardless of if the position of the company, position of my checks, or position of where I was in the company. It didn't matter, because I wanted it not just to be a one-time thing. I want it to become consistent, the dream of the dream where you have that residual income. And that's what I was, because remember, Randy, I was working, and I still have my restaurant business that we're working 7 hours a week, over 100 hours a week, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So I had to do it no matter what. So culture for me was the huge glue that kept my teams throughout the pandemic. It was one of these things that I was blessed to experience early on in my career. And I think what we did was we founded people that had the right culture, the same attraction level, that the same like. You love that Hawaiian shirt. I got my Star Wars Aloha shirt. It's we're attracted by the same culture, and
Right.
and that's something that I've realized that, oh, I got to put this together, because if it's not just the business. There's so many parts of the business that's not part of the business that they don't really teach you. I never learned about culture and how to build a team like this. It was my first time, so that was one of those brain um, things that happened to me. The wow moments in my career.
This sense of community that happens with culture. The Orrin Woodward was talking at one of the events about the cookies. He was in Amway at that point, and so they weren't a wellness company, right? So they'd have meetings and they'd have cookies. So, and he talked about the people who would come every week for the cookies.
Right.
And they're driving in the car that, I wonder, are they oatmeal raisin this week, or are they chocolate chip? And the cookies are a microcosm of just the warm, safe, inviting place that you create with culture, where there are people who have a terrible job with a horrible boss that's bordering on abusive, right? That is it's exploitative.
Yeah.
And they've got a mortgage, a car payment, kids. They feel any latitude to make a jump. So they feel like they're trapped in that job. And many times when you work in dysfunctional places like that, there's a lot of negativity, a lot of politics, and a lot of dream stealers. And people are bitter because they've given up on their dreams. So they don't want to see anyone else live their dream.
Yeah.
So if you're working in one of those places and you join Oriflame, or you join Natura, or you join Fusion or whatever, and you approach them, they're going to ridicule you and tell you you're stupid, and not even meaning to sometimes. They're just so programmed with so much negativity, right? And there are people who are married to negative people, right? I mean, let's just talk about reality here, right? I'm amazed. Like, I'll write a blog, how to deal with negative people, or I've got like 3 or 4 shows like that on my YouTube channel about dealing with negative people, or dysfunctional people, or abusive people. And I'm shocked how many people go down to the comments and say, I know exactly what you're talking about. My spouse is so negative, so bitter, and I'm like, you realize other people read these comments, right? This is a public, I have 2.5 million views on my YouTube channel. Are you sure you want to write this about your wife, and that maybe the neighbor next door is going to see this and tell your wife what you wrote him? Okay. But it showed me how many people are in those kind of toxic relationships. And you have that meeting, like, say, one of the things I promote big is leadership academies, which is like a weekly get together, which built on training, but you also use it as a second look for candidates. And it's so successful because there's no sales pitch. So if somebody sees the presentation and they're not sure, and a lot of people are not sure, the first time. They want to know more. They want to try the products. They want to dig in a little about the comp plan. They want to find out more how the biz works. And so you say, hey, we do this weekly training every Tuesday, whatever. Tickets are $10 or $15, but if you're willing to come, I would love to buy your ticket, and you just come as my guest, and you can just sit in and see the kind of support we do for the business. You'll see the kind of training we do, and then you can decide if the business is right for you, and nobody be trying to sell you anything. Right. So because it's so non-threatening, right, it works, right? So my teams, we always have those weekly leadership academies going in all the markets we're building. And they're the number of people who are they've been in the business for a year or 3 years or 5 years, and they come every Tuesday. They haven't brought a guest since the Obama administration. But you know why they come? In my case, it's not for the cookies, because we don't serve cookies, right? We have something healthy. Yeah. But they come for the same reason as the cookies. They come because, hey, one night a week, I'm surrounded by dreamers. One night a week, I'm surrounded by people who don't think I'm an idiot because I want to build a better life, because I want to make more of myself. And they come for the cookies, or they come from the community, they come for the fellowship. And then at some point, when the moment is right, it's a tipping point for them. And they realize, hey, yeah, you know what? It's time for me to get serious about this. And I'm going to bring 3 people next week because I love this new product the company just came out with, or I love this new enhancement they made to the comp plan, or man, when I heard that lady's story about living in a small town and being a single mother and raising 2 kids by herself, oh my God, that's my story. And if it can work for her, it can work for me. And what the book you're referencing, of course, is my Making the First Circle workbook. And the whole theme of that book is, how do we transform hope into belief? Because hope gets people into the business. Belief is what keeps them in the business. And when you can get them over that tipping point, that's the magic moment. So it doesn't matter if their products are on back order. They believe it's going to work. Doesn't matter if there's some negative publicity, the company makes a misstep, there's, product recall. They know, hey, people in this company with this product line, with this comp plan, with these tools are successful. I've seen my team grow. I've seen my customer base grow. I know this is going to work. And so they'll hang around through the dark times. But it's not because they learned some sexy invitation script. Right. It isn't because you did such an amazing presentation on follow-up. Yeah. It isn't even because the products are so amazing and they had a transformational effect. It isn't because the comp plan is so lucrative. It's because of the culture. Yeah. Because they want to be around people with aspirations, with dreams. And particularly when you build out that culture with integrity, with professionalism, and the other elements, that's, it's
the winning ticket right there. Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about truth bombs in these shows all the time, the amount of truth bombs. And I hope people, when they replay this, they understand it's okay, it's great your company goes to South America to get some special ingredient from the rainforest for your energy drink, but that isn't what's going to keep people around. What's going to keep people around is that culture. Yeah. And you're known for doing a really great job with that.
When you said those words, that's how I am with my team. When my team hears this, they go, oh, that's Gene speaking those words, but it's Randy's face and his voice. because it is so true. I took that to heart, what you said. And because I relate to it so much, I've been through that same thing that you're going through, that hope to belief. And when I saw that, I remember when you wrote that book, I was so happy that you wrote. I went up to you and I don't know if I think it was one of those masterminds. You were at some speakers Toastmaster event. I took my team out there to get the book signed, and I did everything I could because I wanted to just support you on my end by saying that is something I'm going to use, I'm going to run, and I'm going to really hone in on, because this is exactly what I wanted to teach to my team. And it's something that I live by. It's something I do it religiously. The hope to believe is something I even remind our company's founders, and that's super important. It's why I stayed in the business. I mean, I'm making money at my restaurant. I can make money elsewhere, but I can't have this type of dream. This type of dream and the impact it does, not just for your bank account, but for the people in your organization, the people that you signed up. When you say make a list, right? When you say, okay, make a list. I read your books and I listen to your, how many people don't actually make a list is just mind boggling. And oh yeah, my list is in my head, or I know. Like, no, you get a paper out. I want to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to see the numbers going. I want to see names. I want to see phone numbers. I want to see what color they are. You know, your blue, red, green, whatever, your yellow, blue. I want all that. I want to know your list. I want to see that list, because on that list, I have my chicken list, right? And I call it chicken list because I'm in the chicken business, so it relates to me, right? So call your influential list. It's true, but because I'm a chicken guy, right? But then on that list, on the top of that list, before I put the chicken list, I put my friends and family, right? The friends and family, because if I know I have something, and my good friend Kinao, one of my mentors, said, it's like the sin of the desert. If you know there's water in the desert and you don't share with people you care and love, shame on you. And I got something so good. I got something that's life changing, right? And do I just not tell? Well, maybe there's, okay, I get it. Maybe there's a few people you don't want on that list. I get it. We'll put them at the end of the list, right? But they're still on the list. We'll get to them later, you know, when they're ready, hopefully. But
Right.
but those friends and family, I'm inviting people that I care about, right? It's not just a numbers thing, even though network marketing is a lot to do with numbers, but it's also the family, the friends and family. You put, hey, write down your people you know. How many people do you know are your friends and family? I remember you signed up your roommate, what, 3 times or something like that when you first started?
Like
Right?
6 times. 6 companies in a row.
Who do you know? My roommate. Like Darth Vader, that parody from Spaceballs, like, I am your father's brother's roommates, cousins, or whatever you want to call it, you know. But it's people that we care about. And we put people that we care about. Why? Because that's what we do, right? That's what we do. We put people we care about first, mostly. Some of them don't. Okay, maybe they're on the second tier or third tier, but they're still on that list. In Hawaii, our reputation is very important, because you do something wrong, everybody knows who you are. They know who your parents are. They know where you live. They even know what school you came from. So our names are so important to keep it clean, right? To do it the right thing, to get our reputation out, but to make sure that reputation, I mean, character building is first, you know. And I think Oren mentioned this in his talks way before, and that's why I just gravitated to people like Randy and Art, Oren, and Orion, and the stuff you guys teach. The mastermind is second to none. I kid you not. Those events took my business to the next level. It really did. So when you went on sabbatical, it sucked. I was like, I don't get to see that. That's why I paid money. I paid no money for Randy Cage. Right there. It pissed me off. Pissed me off when Oren wasn't there too. I was like, no, I was being a little selfish, and I apologize. But that's just because, you know, you're you're part of the network marketing family. It was seeing Master Jedi Gage on that stage, the Jedi Council, and seeing you there. It's like the Mecca for us. This is where we come in. This is where we learn. This is where the boys become men, the girls become women, you know? So,
Yeah, it's funny, that First Circle book, I launched it at one of the mastermind events, and we did the first printing of 10,000 of them. And that was my theme. They asked me to, I've always done the opening keynote. And I said, that's going to be my opening keynote, turning hope in, or I don't remember if I called it making the first circle work or turning hope into belief, but that was the theme of it. So I did it. And I went through the 6 different big categories in that book. And then I finished and I said, and by the way, I've just put this into a book and they're going to have it in the bookstore there and you can go and get it. And so Richard Brooke runs up to me. He's like, I took 35 pages worth of notes in that session. That was the most brilliant thing I ever, I took. And now you're telling me I didn't need to, you have the book. And, but people went, looked at that, and we sold out 10,000 copies, the entire first printing of the book, in 4 hours, because people went to the room in the lunch break. And, it's a skinny little book because it's designed to give your new distributor when they first start, like get them through that first 2 weeks. And so people went up to the room at lunch and they read it and they came back and said, I came from Malaysia. I need 1,000 of these because I'm going to take them on the plane back with me. Oh, I've got a group in Chicago, back home in Chicago. I need 300 of them to take with me. And we sold out 10,000 copies like instantly.
oh,
And it really was a collaboration of what I thought, that this is really what it's about. We have to, that's the role we have to do as leaders. We have to build belief and transfer that belief to our team. Because the thing nobody talks about that you only hear on this show is this shit is hard. This shit is hard. People drop out, you have no shows, you face rejection. People are going to try to steal your lines from you. Other companies are going to talk bad about you. You've got the MLM dinosaurs who still think you can do the business with handing out dead doctors don't lie cassette tapes. And nobody told them that nobody has cassette players in their car anymore. You have the terrorists who are just out there gaming the system and stealing lines and playing games. And hey, if you just resign and you could re-enroll under your wife's social security number in my line. And then you just have the MLM zombies, the people who are joining all those Ponzi schemes and crypto scams, and they just they're dead, but they don't know how to lay down yet. They just gambling, finding other people they can try to suck the brains out of their head. And you got to build their belief so that and inoculate them against that stuff. So then they'll be okay. And they realize, okay, yeah, I learned about that in Randy's book. So that isn't going to faze me. Now I wrote DEFCON 1 direct selling, which is that same kind of thing, but for people who have a team of at least 10,000 or 50,000 people. Like, okay, here's the challenges you're going to face at your level when you've got a CEO who's psychotic, when the company changes the comp plan and they completely screw it up and everybody's checks go down 35% overnight. And what happens when the top 3 leaders in the company take a deal and go somewhere else. And DEFCON 1 is highest readiness when the missiles have been launched and nuclear strike is imminent, right? That's what that book is about, is like, okay, and it's not for beginners, right? It's for the leaders, people with big groups, because that's, and again, if we dissected the DEFCON 1 book, we'd still say, you know what this book is about? It's about culture. It's about creating and maintaining the right culture that keeps your people out of the ditches and keeps them productive, positive, working, growing their business. That's what we do all day, every day. We build belief, transfer belief, and that's how we make it big.
I love it. It's great because it's so real. It's people need belief now more than anything, especially now. My restaurant, I open 6 days a week, and some of the people that come in for interviews are like zombies. They're walking dead. They come in, if they come in at all. First of all, I get 20 meetings set up for one day, right? Here
Interviews.
and interviews, here you go. Now, this is a few months ago. Out of 20, one shows up. One.
That's insane.
And that one person comes in, it was qualified, really good. And I was like, thank goodness it saved me time. I didn't have to go through all that crap.
Yeah.
That one person, hallelujah. I hire on the spot. I give her a uniform that day. I'll see you tomorrow. She didn't show up.
No.
Kidding me. It's so. Where's the belief in this restaurant business? It's what's in what's going on right now. It's terrible in the food industry.
Right.
We're lucky we have it here.
I still, because that's where I cut my teeth, in the restaurant business. So you were preaching to the choir with me. To this day, especially now after the pandemic, I have my favorite Italian place went out of business.
Oh.
My favorite Cuban place went out of business. My favorite Colombian place went out of business, right? Another just cool neighborhood diner kind of out of business. And I still can't help myself, because what I have learned about copywriting, what I have learned about marketing, what I have learned about leadership, what I have learned about working with, project teams. And I see an empty restaurant and I say, my God, if I took over that space, I could, with what I know now and the menu that I could design and the name, the concept, the theme, the logo I could create, I just slap myself like, Randy, get a hold of yourself. This is what you escaped from. You don't want to be the guy that the police call at 3 a.m. because the alarm is going off. You don't want to be the guy they call at 5 a.m. because the chef is sick. You don't want, I have to slap myself. Yeah, and say, Randy, you have, like, right now, this is the greatest year I've ever had in my life in terms of my prosperity and business. It's just, people are just crawling naked over broken glass and throwing money at me. Please come and speak to our event. Please come and consult with us. Hey, I want to join your coaching program. There's the royalties for this book that came in from Lithuania this week. Oh, there's the royalties from that book that came in from Germany last week. Oh, here's where, literally this morning, I've got a huge event in Kazakhstan, and the bureau just wrote me, hey, they were going to do multi-days and they had some other speakers they want to know, can they ditch the other speakers and just pay you more and you be there for 3 days? And I'm just, the stuff I have booked, right? Yeah. And all of that, and this media company, duplicationnation.com with Jaime, every stuff I have going on, and I have 0 employees.
Yeah.
Right? I have a team around the world, giving me residual income. I've been smart with my money. I've invested my money well. My investments are doing great. I checked my investments about 5 days ago, thinking, the stocks are probably, actually the companies that I've invested in, they're doing really well. My portfolio looks great. I was thinking I was going to change my 401k. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a new client. There's a financial company.
Yeah.
And saying, I have this crappy 401 or IRA or something, and I'm going to roll it over because it never makes any money. It's always, and then I went and looked at the statement, and it's like, oh, actually, no, I've had 2 really good quarters where it's gone up really nice. But it's all with no employees. And if people, I think this is the message we just have to get out in network marketing, direct selling, is this, the extraordinary distinction between, if you look at your team, and I look at my team, and Jaime Loquier looks at his team, and Wes Linden looks at his team, and Ann Feinstein looks at her team, and Dana Collin looks at her team. We have these multi-million-dollar international businesses that that would normally hire a CEO and pay him $300,000 a year or $800,000 a year, and they would have 20,000 employees, and the difference, or 60,000 employees, and all of those headaches and all of that overhead and all of that drama and trauma. And instead we have like I don't remember who I was talking to, one of these chop it ups. It might have been the second one I did with Dana. We were talking about the remote work stuff. And because I have a lot of clients, corporate consulting clients, and they're saying, we're having a problem, we can't get people back to the office, and they're not productive, and they're all sitting at home in their bunny slippers and think they just have to do Zoom meetings and that's their job. They're not out in the field. They don't know the people. They don't know what's going on. We can't, we got employee, and we think they have 3 other full-time jobs that they're doing them all on Zoom and not doing any of them. And I'm like, that's so strange, because I had a team of 200,000 people all over the world, and it runs great. And then I realized, okay, no, here's the difference. My teams in network marketing, your teams, everybody's teams, they're entrepreneurs. They're not employees.
Right.
And that's the distinction, right? And we got to get that message out there, and the recruiting message, the talking points out there. I don't think anybody in the business is doing enough promotion and emphasis on that. Like that restaurant story you just shared about 20 interviews, one show up, and that's what you got to be doing at your next training when you're talking about, or your next opportunity meeting. That's where you got to tell that story. Like, hey, I'm in both worlds. I can tell you real world, how it works. I've got a successful enterprise restaurant, bricks and mortar, old school, this is what that entails. And I've got this team of entrepreneurs, and that's what this entails. And we have to prosecute that case, I think.
That's a great one. These stories of the restaurant, it's horrifying. When you mention, entrepreneurs versus the mindset of, I see these Dashers or Uber Eats guys, and these are entrepreneurs, right? Because they're doing economy.
100%.
Yeah, their own business. And I see them, and I'm like, so this is why people in my team quit. And I see them, they pick up an order of food, and then they end up eating that food on my patio. And then they go home. And then I get a complaint from the guy whose food they're supposed to deliver. Never got the food.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
Crap. Well, I'm getting paid either way, because DoorDash pays me, and it gives you your money back. But at the same time, we have to go through the trauma part.
Yeah.
Do we need that? Holy crap. To me, that's like traffic in LA. Do we need all that traffic, all that road rage? It's seeing all the DoorDashers come late. They're in the parking lot smoking a joint before they hit the road, before they make their delivery. I got a guy arguing with his girlfriend for 40 minutes in my parking lot, and he has the food still in the parking lot.
Oh my God.
Never did yet. And I'm looking, goes, maybe it's LA. They just figured they just legalized weed not too long, during the pandemic. Yeah, but like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what's going on here? And
Well, now I know why my Uber Eats takes so long, because the guy's arguing with his girlfriend for 40 minutes in the parking lot.
and I see this time in and time out. It's terrible. And I look at the equivalent of Joe Schmo comes in to the business and they got the hopes and they sign up and all of a sudden they're in 5 other deals just because they have the wrong. Is it the wrong? It's the same hope, but maybe it's the wrong belief or the wrong mentor.
They haven't been taught how you got to focus when you launch a venture.
There you go. There you go. That's
Yeah,
focus.
because you couldn't have made your restaurant successful if you would have opened a restaurant, a pet supply store, a toy store, and a garden shop at the same time. You just wouldn't have, because you wouldn't have had the focus and you wouldn't have known, hey, I need to make delicious food first. I need it to be presented right. I need the service to be friendly and welcoming. I need the atmosphere to be, if you don't focus on that, it's the same when you're just launching your Melaleuca distributorship or your LifeVantage distributorship. You got to focus. You got to build your customer base. You got to find you got to find 4 lines who will chase you and work down in depth in those lines. And you got to learn the basic skills, how to meet people, how to invite, how to follow up, right? I think we have to work a little harder with that now, because the later millennial generations, which are the ones really driving growth in our business right now, have very short attention spans. They're digital natives. They grew up in the Twitter universe and social media and doom scrolling for 8 hours a day. Yeah. Art just sent me a thing yesterday. Somebody was bitching to Elon Musk about something on the site that the functionality wasn't working. And Elon said, well, this is the bandwidth limit, and for you to have exceeded that, you had to be scrolling for it was like 12 hours a day. An artist sent it to me and it's like, somebody's scrolling 12 hours a day. And I said, Art, that's not a one of. There are a lot of people who are scrolling 12 hours a day. They just, it's an addiction now.
That's crazy. That is insane. And I see my daughter start to do that with the YouTube videos, the YouTube Kids. And we try to limit this. And then when she watches 10 seconds and flips and then watches another, and then she's just, it's the stories that she gets used to. And she's looking at it. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is not good. Because she can't focus. She's all over the place. And I see that. And I go, okay, well, and I had the same talk with Daniel Song not too long ago. He was telling me that his daughter had the same issues. And I was like, okay, well, let me see what Daniel says. And we talked about it, and he limits her on how many times that they can't scroll. They have like every so much minutes or so before they can scroll to the next one. And the parents are actually watching them, overview them, making sure what kind of content it is. But it's impossible to see them 24/7. I mean, to see them, because there's media all over the room. I mean, there's grandpa's room downstairs, and when something happens, she goes to grandpa's room. Grandpa, can I see your phone? And it's so hard to have that watchdog, look at it. And it's just got to go on faith and belief. And hopefully we created that great, teachings in the beginning. Say, hey, listen, please, follow it. And hopefully she kind of goes by that. But there's only so much we can do with that, right? With hope. And hopefully people are, doing the same thing in the real world. I mean, like I said, the 20 interviews that I had lined up, it's not just that one time. Every time I do interviews, the same story that's happening. The only way I get people to work for me now is by referrals, because somebody that knows somebody that vouch for them. And I was like, well, that's what we do in network marketing. It's the referrals, it's people who you know. So I'm looking at this and I go, is it the stories? And it goes back to the belief system again, the hope into belief, because how many times now when I scroll some of these and they say, stop scrolling, you got to listen to the story. And they're playing a story in the advertisement. And that story gets you because you're watching for 10 seconds already. I'm like, damn, I'm in that story already. And it's telling a story about how this happened and this. You're like, damn it. What are you going to sell me eventually? Right.
Right.
And that's the thing that for me, that got me to network marketing was, of course, the belief of can you do this? And the stories, because I was one of that stories that needed to break out of my shell to have my story to be put out there because I was sick and tired of the grind. I wanted my story to go out there. And I don't know if you felt this too, but Randy, but this is why, like at the mastermind, I talked to this to some of my team leaders, to Chris Medina. I think he spoke at the mastermind and Kinau, and I tell them that I made sure that Randy and Art knew my name. They had to know who I was, not because of ego or anything, but I need it because here I don't really have an upline in my business because we came in the beginning and everybody quit like I shared with you before. So I depend, and I mean, imagine how many other people in my situation who depend on the mastermind for the mastermind leadership, the Jedi Council for advice. Because like when you went on sabbatical, I was like, oh, we're gonna get my advice from. So I needed people like Art and Randy to know who I was, just so that I know that I'm moving in the right direction. That was the confirmation to go, oh, I'm doing something right. Keep doing that, multiply the efficiency, pour gasoline over a fire, because if I'm doing something wrong, obviously, well, okay, it kind of veers away from that tangent. But for me, I know that's what the mastermind did. It kind of brought me back closer to the circle because, oh, I'm doing that. I'm on the right track. It's like Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, when he's going down the trenches and he says, stay on target, stay on target. And he wants to disenchant from the computer device. And eventually, he comes in and makes the right choice. And I feel that hope, that belief, it's so important, especially now, even now in the digital era, that the story of that hope and belief that we pick on, it's huge. And I think there's another Randy Gage out there somewhere. I mean, not exactly like Randy, but there's another guy like Eugene Hong or Daniel Song or Jonah out there waiting to be invited to a meeting like this so they can, have their story to be shared. I mean, we need more stories, right, Randy? I think we need
100%. Amen and amen.
Yeah.
So what do you got? What else? What's on your list? I always, for people who don't know, each of us bring a list, 4 or 5 things we want to chat about. What's next on yours?
So I was always curious because I kind of felt, well, maybe Randy leans toward this, but then he got the, so there's no wrong answer. All right. But I get a bunch of this from my Mormon friends because I have a lot of Mormon friends. And I was blown away by the question because Kinao, he's Mormon, he's from the Laie side of the islands where all the Polynesians are at. And there's this thing called Star Trek versus Star Wars. What are you? Which one are you, right? And in the beginning, it tells this is what Kinao told me. And he goes, it tells from the beginning, like, are you in or are you out or whatever that team is and whatnot. But are you Star Trek or Star Wars or both? Could be both. There's nothing wrong being both, right?
Oh, I'm 100% both.
Yeah.
I watched Star Trek literally every single day after school, right? I went to Ed Stack, was my best friend in Madison, Wisconsin. And every day we'd go to school and we would go to his house. His mother was work. It was just him, his younger brother, Paul. and we would watch Star Trek. And literally, the show was canceled pretty quickly. There weren't that many episodes of that original series. And so, we've seen the Tribble show 35 times.
Yeah.
We've seen this show 35 times, and we would know the dialogue. That's how, but that idea of flying through space, starship, was so romantic to me. But I will remember the day, and it was with Ed, as a matter of fact, because he was my BFF growing up, right? We did everything together. So we were at some movie together when the trailer for Star Wars came on, with the cantina scene and whatever, the original trailer. And I was, holy fuck. What did I just see? So I saw the original Star Wars in the theater 18 times.
Oh, gosh.
18 times. I was just so enthralled with it. And then, I always joke that Lucas owes me so much money. I mean, because I remember I was doing a speech in Ukraine when episode, I don't know, probably the 4th or 5th one of them was out, and it was coming out that Friday. And I was there doing the event in Ukraine. And I was like, so I was telling Nick, my interpreter there, I'm like, I'm so crazed. I'm so mad because I didn't realize when I took this gig that this was the premiere weekend for the movie. I would have never taken the gig. It's not worth $40,000. I would give him the $40,000 back. I'd rather be at the theater on Thursday night for this special preview at 10 p.m. or whatever. And he said, well, I'll get you the DVD. You can watch it in your room tonight. I'm like, no. I'm talking about the new one that's coming out tomorrow. He's like, yeah, you want, which language you want? And I'm like, why do you? He's like, because that's how it is there. It's just so there is no copyright, right? And I'm like, but Nick, you don't understand. I feel like dirty if I steal a copyrighted thing like that.
Like watching porn.
Right? I feel like that's a lack of integrity. It's anti-prosperity for me, and I'm the prosperity guy. And I said, but what can we find a show tomorrow before the speech that I can watch it in theater, even though it's in Ukrainian? I don't care. Just I'll see it and experience it. And then when I get home, I'll watch it in English. And he said, yeah. So I watched it there, like the first time in Ukrainian. And it was so crazy. I had to go to the bathroom during the movie. And I run out, and there's 2 doors. And obviously one says woman and one says man. But in Ukrainian, there is no way I know. I'm like, I got to stand here till somebody walks out because I don't want to go in the woman's locker room, But and I was thinking when I fly back, I should have just bought the damn bootleg DVD, because I went 18 times to the original one. Then I bought the VHS tape.
Yeah.
Then I bought the collector's edition VHS tape.
Right.
Then I bought the DVD. Then I bought the deluxe high definition DVD. Then I bought the director's cut with deleted footage DVD. Then I bought the original trilogy. And same in all of them, I bought like the original trilogy in VHS, the original trilogy in DVD, the original trilogy in Blu-ray. I bought every one of these Lucas movies at least. I paid for them each at least 50 times. I should have just taken the bootleg one, right? But when Next Generation came out for Star Trek, I was like, and then they showed the crew like on TV Guide or something, and they had this bald captain,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you're telling me you're going from James Tiberius Kirk of the Starship Enterprise to this old bald guy?
Yeah. I had the same.
But when that show came on, and he's a Shakespearean actor. Okay. He is just, when he says, he pulls his shirt down and he says, make it so, number one. I mean, it's like, so I was, and then, so, the Deep Space Nine and Voyager and all of them, I'm literally, my favorite right now is the Strange New World. I think Anson Mount has got to be the coolest Star Trek captain ever. He's just, and I thought I could never love anybody more than I did Picard, but then let me tell you, when J.J. Abrams went out and re-energized the Star Trek movies, so I am absolute born again fundamentalist for both of them.
I heard there was rumors making a fourth one, so I'm not sure how that's going to work.
I heard that too. Yeah.
It's
where are you? I know you're crazy Star Wars. Are you also into Trek or no?
Oh yeah, I saw Star Wars when I was like 4.5 years old, and in the theaters, Star Wars when it first came out, and after that, I was Han Skywalker. Okay, I wanted to be cool like Han Solo, but have a laser sword like Luke. Because I wanted to pilot the Falcon and have the saber at the same time, which was weird. So when we role played, I just realized, your name Randy Paul Gage is RPG.
It is.
Yeah, and I was like, what, dude? So like, anyway, that's why I was like fantasy, because I used to play Dungeons and Dragons when I was young too. So it's the whole thing. But anyhow, I reenacted it when we were kids, and it was just amazing. So I think I saw Star Wars first, and then I saw Star Trek when I got a little older in the reruns. And my favorite is the old classic Star Trek, the William Shatner
original series.
Because when I see him,
TOS.
TOS. And then my dad was always busy working, so I would always, at the end of the Star Trek movies, most of them, not all of them, Captain Kirk will always have these last words, right? He would say at the bridge, and Bones and Spock was there. And I was like, what is those last words? Because these are, points I want to learn from the captain and stuff like that. So for me, I was really intrigued by that. When I was in college, the Picard came team, and I didn't buy in because I was such a Captain Kirk lover. I was like, Picard, you kidding me? I was like, he's bald. I always thought that number one should have been captain, should have been the captain, because he had the looks, he had
what you would expect from a Hollywood,
right?
But they were so smart. Let's take a detour. This is the smartest marketing lesson you could ever see in the world. Doing Picard was a stroke of genius, because you could never do another Kirk, because it could never compare to the original. So you go with Picard completely out of, a whole nother lane. And that's why we accepted him, because we didn't compare him to Kirk, because he was so different, I think. And I'm telling this, I tell that story to clients a lot when I'll just be working on some magalog for their product line or a tagline for their company or something. And I'll say, listen, you can't have James T. Kirk #2. You got to have Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah.
Because just what you say, it's because once you fall in love with a character like that,
right?
Like, I think I bought into Chris Pine as Kirk because 30 years had gone by or something. If it had just been a couple of years, I would have said,
Yeah. It's so funny because I saw old pictures of Picard wearing a wig. At the first pilot, they was trying to make him wear a wig.
They didn't try to make him. He wore it.
Yes.
For the audition. And they told him, no, take it off. We don't want you. We want you bald.
See, Randy knows his stuff. I'm telling you. Yeah,
I know my stuff.
So we'll talk about Pine, because I love Chris Pine too. The way they did it, I think Carl Urban plays a great Bones. Like, holy crap, his Bones is spot on.
He
And,
was amazing.
oh, he's so good. And one thing I noticed that they finally put in there, and the funny thing is he did some Star Wars too, because he directed, episode 7, right? Seatbelts. They finally put seatbelts in Star Trek, right? And now they have them in the Discovery and whatever. But that was kind of funny because you always see the red shirts flying all over the bridge.
Right.
They're just flying all over, and it's hilarious because it's almost like they're diving, like they're forced diving from one end of the bridge to the other end of the bridge, and it's hilarious. And
in those days, it was done by moving the camera upside down, and it was really cheesy.
It's hilarious. So I'm so glad they did that. But yeah, so I'm gonna ask you this, Randy. What is your favorite Star Wars movie of all of them that came out? What was your favorite Star Wars movie? Was it Star
the Andor one?
Oh, Andor, yes.
What is the
Rogue One?
Yeah, Rogue One.
Oh, Rogue One.
That is, to me, the greatest Star Wars movie of all time.
That's a great. I love that film. That's great. Yeah,
and that Andor TV show.
Yeah.
That is the greatest Star Trek show. Star Wars, Star Trek. It's like if I had to pick my favorite sci-fi of all time.
Yeah,
the Battlestar Galactica remake was increíble. The Andor one, that show, I am waiting with bated breath for the next season for that. It's just I love that because I work hard, right? I put hours in. I work hard and I play hard. And so when I take a break, I don't want a 18th century period drama with people wearing petticoats or whatever. I want and the third one I was going to say is oh my God, what's the name of The Expanse.
Oh,
I would put those up as the greatest sci-fi shows of all time. Because Expanse was like you're talking about with what JJ was doing with Star Wars, right? With The Expanse, there's no force field. When somebody hits a torpedo in the ship, it puts a hole in the ship, right? And the cabin depressurizes, and you know what I mean? There's a scene where a guy loses his head. It literally, a shell comes through the cabin and decapacitates the guy, and there's the hole in the thing which is sucking all the oxygen out, and they gotta seal that up before everybody dies. It's real world gritty, and that ship, the Rocinante, in that show is the coolest spaceship I have ever seen in my life. It just, oh my goodness, it's so when I want to. So when I'm looking for diversions, that's what I want. I want something just so totally out there that it's just going to engross me and capture me into the fantasy.
So it's because Star Wars is more fantasy than sci-fi, right? And Star Trek is more sci-fi. So that little combination of both, I love it. I love it too. Yeah.
Star Wars is just a space opera, is what it really is.
Right.
Particularly the original 6 Lucas ones. It's a space opera. It's like a space Western. And that's why Andor and the Rogue One spoke to me so much, because they really got gritty. There's no cameos in Andor, right? There is no lightsaber fight every 10 minutes in Andor. It is gritty, Blade Runner, dystopian type of really amazing, just amazing. And Diego Luna, I just adore him.
I was always curious about that because I remember I saw a picture of you on Facebook in those gray Jedi robes, and I was like, wow, this is what I'm talking about, right? What event? What event was that when you
That
dressed?
was my company's annual convention, and I did the closing keynote was titled Way of the Jedi.
Ah,
And
Grace.
yes, I paid a lot of money to a seamstress who actually
That was the second
created
question.
a legitimate Jedi. I spent
Yeah.
$300 on the boots, and I got the sharper image lightsaber, that
At no expense.
really makes
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
sound effect and everything.
You had it custom tailored.
Yeah, I
Holy
did.
crap. That's what I'm
I
talking
did.
about.
I'm not buying no $30 Halloween costume.
Oh, because there's $1,000 costume, right? There's the legit ones, right? But still, that's not as like that's the true cosplay where someone fabricates it from scratch to tailor your body, into
That's what I did. I
that.
always wear bespoke suits, and my Jedi uniform can be no different.
Nice, nice. See, that's what I'm talking about. Um, so the other thing I want to talk about, Randy, was it ties into Star Wars and Star Trek, right? But what I've noticed, and the funny thing is I took Art on his very first Comic Con too. It was what because Randy, when we met, it was 2015 in San Diego, and for Art, I have it here. It's just hilarious. I have a picture of Art, and I didn't know Art was a Star Wars guy too. And Art just texted me this picture today, right? And it's hilarious. I know you can see it, but it's him and I. So I gotta get the focus thing here.
Well, he sent me a video of you and him at the Millennium Falcon thing
Oh
in
yeah, yeah.
Disney as
That was
well.
at Epcot. I mean, that was at Hollywood Studios in Florida. Um, but here we're sitting down at a replica snow speeder from Empire Strikes Back, and seeing Art in the pilot. I guess I'm Dak and he's Luke, right? Because we're sitting in the cockpit, we're just having fun, and we took so many pictures. It was like we were kids again, which is unbelievable. And I was talking to Art, and I want to see Art. I want to bring Art to a Comic Con because he hasn't been to Comic Con. I said, Art, you gotta check this out because this phenomenon is insane. And that's I think,
For people who don't know, listening,
yeah,
they get 180,000 people at that convention.
which is insane. 180,000 people. Yeah, yeah. New York and San Diego, I know, are the biggest, but the Houston one is big too. It's right there in the convention center. And when Art went, it was his eyes lit up. It was everything Star Wars. It was just unbelievable. And seeing that bond, that Star Wars bond at the convention, really just created that community that we see. Not, network marketing has the same community, right? But I always want to ask you this is you have the workspace where 36% of the people, I mean, 36% of people are not even, I mean, that's how much people are at back to work, right? Roughly. And then you have these people that are entrepreneurs because we're different, right? We're not punching in. We're doing it because of the dream, the belief, the hope, and whatnot. And then you have all these people at Comic Con. They're coming at these conventions, maxing out stadiums. Hall H in San Diego, you got to stay overnight to get in line in that hall. If not, you're not going to make it. People are waiting almost 2 days in advance to stand in line.
Yeah.
It's like, do you think we'll ever have that type of similar hope, belief in our profession? Because I don't know, do we have that before back in the 80s or the Amway days or whatnot? I'm kind of curious, but this is something that it's extraordinary. It really is.
Well, since you asked, that is a vision I have with duplicationnation.com that I'm doing with Jaime. We're doing we've got a big event in November in Mexico City. It'll be a Spanish version. Because and it'd be called, Jaime's been doing an event called Cumbre de Líderes, which is Leader Summit or Leadership Summit. And so now we're coming together on it. And so I upgraded it to Cumbre Palooza, and we're going to make it a festival. We're just going to make it cray-cray. And we're going to do English version because it really, I felt it really hurt the profession when Art wasn't doing Mastermind. It started with COVID, and then he's just busy. You know, he's CEO there in the US here for Zincino. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He's, Wes Linden has been making that event happen, the digital version with it. And Julie used to be a big help for Art, and she moved away. And so he's like, I don't have time to do this. So he wasn't doing it. Even now, we've got the one coming up in Turkey in December. But it's really Nasan Simsek is the guy, because he lives there, and he's the guy who publishes my books there. And he's a GM for, I don't even remember which company there. And so he's doing most of the preparatory work. And I'm saying, no, there needs, and of course we have that he who must not be named, who does that event in Las Vegas the last few years, and that's just a shit show. It's just filled with crypto scammers and Ponzi schemes, and anybody who buys a certain number of tickets gets on the stage there, and they go there to steal your team. There are speakers there. That's their only reason they're going to that event, to try and poach your team and get their contact info. And so Jaime and I are committed to making sure at least once a year there's an incredible event that everyone can be a part of. Like Art will be with us in this one down in Mexico, because he's building now in Latam and got a team going. And so I want to get the gringos down there. I want to get the Latinos up in Gringo land. And I do believe that one day there needs to be a leverage sales con with 180,000 people.
That's what I'm talking about.
Because, yeah, I mean, if I look at the events, so I've got Sacramento in 2 weeks. I've got Orlando. Actually, I have Orlando in 2 weeks. I have Sacramento in 3 weeks. I have Oslo coming up in September. I have Kazakhstan coming up in October. I have Turkey in December. Some of these events are 10,000 people, 15,000 people, right? So I'm saying, hey, if we do the right generic event, I think of the New York Book Expo and the Frankfurt Book Expo and the Comic-Con in San Diego. And I'm like, yeah, our space needs something like that, where it's just, we're really, this Duplication Nation, we're really going crazy with it. We're just starting this week. For the time people watch this, they'll see we've got an advice column now. You got a question you want to ask me or Jaime, you go there, record a video on your phone. We're going to pick the best ones and we're going to answer them on the site. We got a MLM boot camp, free email training thing. It's a 3-week survival training, 9 lessons in 3 weeks, and it's free. And we have a paid newsletter, MLM Confidential. You make sure, Gene, every one of your leaders, not everybody, the leaders, make sure they get a subscription to MLM Confidential. And we're naming names in there. There's a section every month called The Dish. And we'll say, hey, this Ponzi scheme is operating here. They just got an injunction from the country of Australia, or this co-founder was just arrested in Romania, and we are going to take the profession back from those scammers, right? And I believe and the whole philosophy behind that is, we don't have to keep fighting over one piece of the pie. We can bake a bigger pie. There's still 7.9 billion people in the world who are not in a network marketing company right now. Why don't we talk to them? And then the Rodan and Fields people don't have to compete with the Natura people, who don't have to compete with the Arbonne people. There is so much pie out there for everyone. Let's just collaborate and build it out. And when you go to Comic-Con, you can love the panel on Guardians of the Galaxy, and then 3 hours later, you can go to the Picard panel. And 3 hours after that, you can go to the Star Wars thing, or the Andor, or whatever, this doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. We really can come together and do amazing things.
Yeah, no, it's great. I've always wanted at these Comic Cons, I paid some really good money, some of these cons, to get the VIP Diamond Pass so I can cut some of the lines. And instead of waiting a 3-4 hour, I go in only 45 minutes to take pictures with Patrick Stewart, for example, or whoever it is. I wish I got to tell this to Art, because like Art,
what's your budget for a Comic-Con these days for one?
Okay, so the budget and how much I actually spend are two different things.
Okay, what do you actually spend?
So anywhere from $3 to $5 grand is
okay.
It's okay. I try to, I keep coming home, and I remember listening to Daniel's song when you're in Daniel's song, and I remember you telling me that you're trying to get rid of all their collectibles, and I'm like, see, I'm trying to do. I'm trying not to collect as much anymore, but to collect less, but to have more meaningful and stuff like that. And I think I'm going to trade up. For example, I have all these comics here. These are drawers of comics.
Those are drawers.
Drawers. Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. I was going to ask you, because there'll be a lot of people. Most of the people listen to this on podcasts. They're not watching the YouTube.
Oh, gotcha.
Gene has behind him like 12 big, and I thought those were comic book covers, and then so they're actual drawers filled with comic books.
Right, but their covers here, they're graded. The yellow tags means they're signed, and you had a witness who authenticated the signing, and a lot of them I have Stan Lee's signature before he passed away. So I had a buddy named Derek who lives here in California, and he was the person that did all the events for Stan Lee. So I got to know him, and funny thing is, I would schedule my talks and my visits to teams during the same time as some of the Comic Cons. So what I would do is go to Comic Con a few days and then go to do a training and then go back. It's hilarious. And I would get Stanley to sign a whole bunch. I can't remember how many of them, but I got Daniel to get back into Comic Con because of that. So he started collecting because of that. And then, it's just amazing. And from here, I kind of want to get rid of some of them to buy up, to get the Amazing Fantasy #1, because that's the Grail comic I haven't gotten yet. But I don't want to buy it. I want to upgrade and trade up for it, because that's to me more challenging. Because that to me is the hustle and bustle. Like, you earned it. If you did it that way, you really earned it the hard way. But yes, those are comics behind, and some of these autographs. If they had a booth of Randy Gage at the Mastermind, and you had the printers right here, and you had the cameraman, and you had a line, because you have your lines at your book signing. Because I've been almost all of them. I got all my books signed. I got my whole team to duplicate. If you don't got Randy's autograph, you're not in the business. Like, you're not. You know how many of my teams have your autograph? I used to come up.
I do remember it was when I don't remember, it was when I went to LA or whatever, but yeah, you had a whole tribe there, Ronnie Cruz and
Ronnie and I, we bring the gang. We had to support you, and especially when that Making the First Circle book came out, I was like, that was so butter for our business. And getting the guys to see that signature. And I will go up to you at Mastermind. Hey, Rand, can you sign this for the guy Tom? Yeah, but Tom, I will bring you 5 books at a time. You're like, All right. And I appreciate that, by the way, because that's all belief. That is the things that took 2 seconds, and you're like, I don't even know who this guy is. But those books went into the right people and went into the people that had belief. And I'm just so touched because of this. And that's why I'm a big believer. You know, we're belief givers. We give belief. Yeah, it's huge. But going back to us, yes, having Randy's photo op booth would have been priceless. Having Art photo booth at the Mastermind. I'm telling you, you can charge whatever you want and have it printed right then and there. And at the end of the day, go to that picture and says, Randy, can you sign this for me? And I would put that in my office on my desk and help me dream, because that's something I want to shoot out for.
I love that stuff too. I do that with the tour, like So You Think You Could Dance tour and the American
much
Idol
fun.
tour. I'm all in on those rock concerts or whatever. I'm all in on those VIP meet and greet stuff. I do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest part of my speaking business now, is like this deal in Kazakhstan that wrote today and wants to have me for 2 more days. That's like the biggest trend I see when they book me, is they say, okay, but we want a VIP experience. Can we do something the night before, like with wine and cheese and crackers?
Yeah.
And a stand and grin, whatever photo thing, and everybody gets a signed copy of the book, and they charge a lot of money for that. And that's really kind of the growing part of my biz right now, is that the big events, they always want, and you have to do it. People like, well, why do I have to pay money for the VIP? Because I'm going to events, there's 10,000 people. You cannot do a book signing for 10,000 people. I'm sorry, you will be there for 11 days. It is what it is. You cannot. So you have to, and that part makes me crazy. I don't like that part, because I'm this, I know who I am. When somebody says, oh my God, Randy Gage, I can't believe I'm meeting you, I'm always thinking, they know I was the guy who was kicked out of school, who was in jail for armed robbery, who, had 11 negative dysfunctional relationships in a row, who failed in his pizza business, and they think they want an autograph with me. They want a picture with me.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Sign me up.
but we have to put security in place. We have to put processes in place, because it's like, I love when, like, for instance, I'm doing my tribal event in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's I don't remember, it's $10,000 a person or $15,000 a person. It's for speakers, authors, coaches who lead tribes. And it's very intimate. We don't use microphones. I keep the crowd so small that I can do a U-shaped table and no microphones and no AV. And it's my theme of the event is ideas fornicating, right? It's just total brainstorming, creative. It's my favorite week of the year, right? So I have events like that, or where sometimes I'm just hired to speak to the board of directors or the top 100 people, and I love it. Then I can show up early. I can sit in the room. I can sign in as many books as they want. I can take as many photos as they want. I get to meet people and really, but once you get above 800, 1,000 people, it just can't happen. I have to be, we've got a whole rider in the contract. There has to be a green room behind the stage. There has to be a bathroom there. Randy can't go out in the conference hall to use the bathroom, or you'll never see him again. He will not be back for his second speech, because he will still be in the bathroom where there will be 180 people lined up in the bathroom holding the book, and Randy is trying to pee and they won't even let him pee. So, it's, it kills me that I can't, because Randy, they'll see you going through the back hall or something, because they wait outside, they look for the freight loading entrance and the backstage entrance, and they camp out. When I go to, I'll probably never go back to Moscow unless they get rid of Putin. But like when I go to Moscow, when I come into the hotel, there would be 8-10 people waiting for me in the lobby.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, we tell every client, do not tell where Randy is. Do not give his flight information. Do not, we use a pseudonym for my name when I check in. But they figured there was only, and like in those days, there's only like 5 high-level hotels in Moscow. So they just send 10 people to each one of them. And they just camp out in the lobby and say, well, Randy's going to show up at one of these. And then once that first group knows, then we'll call the other 4 groups, and then they'll be there the next day and the next morning and that night when he comes back from dinner, they'll be, so and some of those people, they have driven 6 days by car, 5 days by train to be in a 90-minute session with me. And I am so honored and humbled by that.
Absolutely.
But I was talking, Flacco and I were talking about this, because Eric Gamio, he's like, because he I don't remember, he always tells the story of somebody who, I don't know if it was Mick Jagger or Elton John or whoever, somebody, Bob Dylan or whatever. And it's like, hey, you signed up for that when you wanted to be a rock star. That's part of the game. And I'm like, no, Flacco, I'm sorry. That sounds good. It looks good. It looks good on paper. But sometimes I need to pee and I cannot go through a phalanx of 450 people before I pee. I'm sorry, I can't. And they will literally approach you at the urinal and say, can I take a picture of you? Can I have sign this book with you? And I have to eat. I can be sitting in a restaurant, scooping my macaroni and cheese, and the first, other tables will be there, and and then the first one who breaks the ice, who comes up and says, can I have a picture? If I take that first picture, then there will be 24 people lined up, and then I will never be able to eat my dinner. And I'm like, sorry, Flacco, I know that sounds cool, that's what you sign up. No, but the truth is, you still need to live your life, and you have to set some kind of boundaries. And even, as you know, just top leaders in every company, this is one of the things I'm training. Like in Sacramento in a couple of weeks, I'll be doing a pre-event leadership thing for their very top people. And I'll be training them on how to host your sponsorship line. So when you do have that, Hawaiian blue diamond triple NATO commander or whatever comes to your town, you have to protect them. And somebody has to be, the one to say, hey, I know everybody wants to talk to Frankie, but he's given all his time. He just did this amazing 2-hour presentation. And I'm sorry, I have to steal him away because he has other things he needs to do. Because you don't want to make Frankie be the bad guy. Because then they say, oh my God, I waited in line for an hour and then the guy wouldn't even talk to me. He makes all the money. He's the top rank and he wouldn't even, don't let even your company people, the CEO, whatever, right? If you have a convention of 10,000 people and you let the CEO out there in the crowd, what's going to happen? There's going to be a line of 1,000 people line up immediately. And the first guy in line will say, I ordered a bottle of the multivitamins and there's supposed to be 30 pills in there and there was only 29. What are you going to do about it? And because they're thinking, oh my God, here's my chance. I was missing a gummy bear in my bottle, and here I got the founder of the company. Here's how now I can get my problem solved. There has to be somebody who puts his arm around that person and says, you know what? Mr. So-and-so is very busy with a lot of things. Let me help you out here and show you how to get your customer service problem solved, right? And somebody has to come up and behind him and whisper in his ear, do you need to be rescued? Because I will set that up in advance with my people, depending on, let's say the crowd's only 1,000 people. I'll say, listen, after the speech, I'm going to go there and I'm going to sign some books or whatever. But after 25 minutes, you got to come and rescue me, because, I can do that much, or I have that much time I could do before I got to go to the airport or whatever the case. Well, you got to train your team how to do that, right? That's a culture. It's like everything else. You train your people and you create the culture.
I think I have to implement that a little bit more. In our culture, I mean, we just stay and we give, but it gets tiring and draining, and the energy afterwards is just draining sometimes. When you're done, you're just so tired, you're worn out, you're hungry.
Yeah.
Everything is just, it's like taking a flight, a 13-hour flight to Asia, coming back. You just want to sleep. Yeah. And sometimes that no part, it's like getting an autograph signed by your hero when you're a kid, and they say no. You're like, oh crap.
Right. You're like, I can't believe because they'll say, no, just one last pick. Please let me be the last one. No, there's 300 people behind you, and they all will say the same thing. Let me be the last one. And you just can't do it.
Perspective, Yeah, we put ourselves inside first, and we're looking at the other shoe. Yeah.
You have to protect your upline superstars so they can help everyone else. Because if you don't protect them, they can't help you.
That's right. That's huge. That is very good. Very good. Yeah.
All right. I think I have one more thing that I want to talk to you about. You have anything else you want to throw on the table?
Let's see.
Actually, I have two things. One is a real little quick thing.
Okay. Yeah. One is a small one, but I was just curious because seeing your career over, my goodness, you mentioned over 40 years in this profession.
44 years.
Wow. I turned 51 this year. So I'm like, holy moly. Okay. That's a lot of experience. And I appreciate that, because that's huge. I've only been in this profession for 17 years. So for me, I'm kind of I'm experienced, a little bit of veteran here and there, but still, I guess we have this thing where we're always learning, which is great, right? So I love it. Would Randy ever start his own company in the future? I'm just curious. I'm just putting it out there, because you've excelled at almost every company you've been at. And I've been watching you, and it's great. And as a friend and as a mentor, and I see you, and it's great. I'm not saying this because, but what is the next level for Randy? I'm just curious, because you've got all the pins, you've got all the accolades, and what is the next level? Is it just to, what is it? I'm just so curious.
I will not lie. The idea of starting a company has crossed my mind at least once or twice or 50 million times. And I've always backed away. I do the same thing as I do when I see an empty restaurant. I slap myself and I say, I get it. Yeah, because that's the employee. And here's the other thing. We talk about the difference between an employee and an entrepreneur, right? There's also a huge difference between a visionary founder and a great COO or COO who manages a company. And they're two really different skill sets. And this is a chapter in the DEFCON 1 book where I talk about because I've seen it a lot. I've seen where you have a brilliant visionary founder who starts a company and it's magic. But then it's 2 years into it and the company needs to be managed. We need logistics. Somebody has to do supply chain analysis to make sure the ingredients are there to produce the products. Somebody has to be planning when the warehouses and the factories are going to be built 2 years before you're going to need them. Visionary founders are usually terrible at that stuff, right? Look no further than Elon Musk and Twitter. I mean, Twitter has been, and here is one of the most visionary people on earth, maybe the most visionary person on earth, because he's the first guy on earth that I know of that said, hey, we need to be a multi-planetary species. And I think Mars is the best option available. So I'm going to start a rocket ship company and we're going to take people to Mars, right? Look at what he's done with that. Look at what he's done with Tesla. Look what he's done with Neuralink. Look what he's doing with the Boring Company. This is literally one of the most visionary, mad genius people in the world. And then he bought Twitter and he had to be in charge of, hey, how many engineers do I have to fire? And how do I cut the rent and the overhead and the whatever? And it's been a complete shit show. And it's so sad because he went from being idolized. I mean, this, if you ever read the signal chats between Jonak and I, it's a continuous argument over Elon, because I'm like, did he really just say that in a tweet? Did he really just mock some person with a disability who he fired publicly in the tweet storm? And you know what I mean? And so that kind of thing comes about where, and I know what I'm great at. I'm a great visionary leader. I'm a terrible manager. That's just not my skill set. So when I first started my publishing company and I had the seminar company and everything, I was doing $150,000 a month in revenue. And this is back when $150,000 a month was a lot of money. And I don't say that just to be snarky. I mean, really, it was a lot of money. And I was never making any money because I was a terrible manager. And I hired someone to be my boss. And I said, you know, her name was Sherry. And I did a bunch of interviews and I hired her because I was sitting at my desk. She's across from my desk. I have shit stacked all around on the floors, everywhere on the floor. Stacks of papers and magazine articles about me where I was the cover boy model, and, you know, files for clients and CD sets, and, you know, the entire office is covered with shit on the floor. So I'm doing the interview with her, and she says, I'm afraid I need to tell you something, though, if you're thinking about hiring me. I said, okay, what's that? She says, if I hire you, I'm going to come in here one Saturday and you're going to have to meet me here. And we're going to go through all the piles of everything on this floor, and we're going to file it away in an organized manner. And if you don't come in and do that with me, then I will just put it all in garbage bags and I'll throw it away. So I'm just warning you up front, if you hire me, that's what's going to happen. And I said, you got the job. Instantly, when she told me that, I'm like, you got the job. And I hired her. So she would say, Randy, here's your tickets. Go to the airport. I'd say, where am I going? Don't worry about it, Randy. Just hand the ticket to the lady at the counter and she will show you which gate to go to. And, you know, she could get the trains running on time. And like within 90 days, I had this wildly profitable company because I had somebody to keep me out of the ditches, right? And so, my joy, I mean, I wouldn't say I will never do it, because I never say never, but I don't think I would do that, because my joy is the field work. Yeah. My joy is just like doing these, like my favorites are the leadership retreats that I do once a year, and I bring in people and we talk about the tools of influence. And how do you create the culture, and how do you manage your money? How do you sell the dream? The high level leadership stuff, like we talk about in this show a lot. And then, but if you say, well, what's my next, what is the next chapter? It's going to be duplicationnation.com. We're going to build that out into a worldwide media outlet. I envision having a faculty of 40, 50, 60 contributors with that, all kind of podcasts and newsletters and training events, and just a media outlet that is the preeminent voice in our space, taking it back from the hucksters and giving people, those people you mentioned, the next Eugene Hongs, the next Orion Sally, the next Wes Lennon, the next Sarah Robbins, giving them that infrastructure they need, to go. That's my next. I always want, I don't ever want to get to the point where I say my greatest accomplishments are behind me.
Mm.
So what gets me to throw the sheets off the bed in the morning is I want to know my greatest accomplishment is still in front of me. And so that passion right now is duplicationnation.com and making this safe space.
Yeah.
For everybody in the profession who has that dream and wants to do something about it.
There's too much crap out there in the market. There's too much stuff on YouTube that's shouldn't be on there. And I would love for stuff like that. The reason why I asked you that is because, I'm an owner of a restaurant business. And one of the things I need to do is I need to fire some people. And I hate firing people because it sucks.
It sucks.
It
It
really
sucks.
does. And you got to be the guy to do it. And sometimes you got to put your foot down and you got to do the numbers. And when you mentioned that about the visionary leader and whatnot, I give props to our founders who stuck into the hard times. And I was like, wow, it's just super hard to see it from that angle and that point of view. It's so easy to, it's like media. It's so easy to just fall for the cracks and I guess the word I'm looking for is just to assume or presume, or give blame or whatnot, or like, hey, the economy or whatnot, or the recession or COVID, it's just, it's an exciting time. I look at it now. This time is very exciting because my restaurant business, I'm doing numbers I've never done before. But then again, my profit margins are the lowest I've ever before.
Yeah, I hear that from a lot of businesses right now.
Yeah, it's just like, we're making money, but then, it's a weird, interesting time, even different from 2008, because I was still in business in 2008. Then I remember my network marketing business boomed around that time, and
Yes, they did.
I love this profession. I love what I do, and I got to thank the trailblazers like yourself and Art for making that pathway for us, because if it wasn't, it'll just make our lives so much harder. But at the same time, I just create that bond. I look at Randy Gage as that older brother, to have that Jedi master in the back of my hands. We're not in the same company, and it doesn't matter. It's beautiful. It is so beautiful. And people listening on this podcast or this YouTube video, if you're on it, this is the culture we want to attract, and not the other stuff. Because I heard the other stuff, I don't like it. I see it, I run the other way. I got my team like, dude, I get my garlic, I get my cross, and I say, you stay out of this way because I ain't going that way. So I love the fight, and I just want to say I appreciate everything what you do. You've done so much for my sister. It's huge for what you've done to my sister, because my sister's story, right? And she was a dropout, and I told her your story, right? Because I couldn't get her to do anything, but when your story came up, it was huge. So I appreciate that too as well.
All right. So the really quick thing, your daughter,
yes,
who is doing taekwondo, is named Leia.
Yeah.
Is that a Coincidence, or is that because her father is such a Star Wars fan?
That's a good question. So I had a lot of research because it was our firstborn, and it was a big thing. And I was like, what do we name her? And we kind of gave her a little bit of our mom's name and her middle name. She has a Korean middle name. It has my mom's name in there. But Leia she was born on January 10th, and she was supposed to be born on January 1st or December 31st. Around that time, she came out a little bit later. She's like, I ain't coming out. I don't blame her. Like, what, but it was December where Carrie Fisher passed away. And that was the nail in the coffin because her character was such a strong character. So I'm a huge Star Wars fan, as you know. So Leia fit perfectly. Well, what did it for me was Leia in the Hawaiian word means child from heaven.
Oh, wow.
Imagine that. I had to look it up. I don't know if it's pronounced the same way or Leia or Leia.
Probably Leia, but
Leia or
still,
something.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. The same spelling. So when I saw that, I was like, done. And my wife says, okay, it's up to you. So I had free realm and I'm like, yes. And then Daniel goes, so if you have a second, is it going to be Luke? Yeah, I don't think so. But I don't know if that's even a conversation because we're both in age. But it was a big thing. And I told this to Art. It was roughly around, it was the summer a few years ago. I think 2006. I can't remember. I get a phone call from from a friend because I'm in Europe because we have our Blue Diamond trip. So I'm in Europe a week in advance. It's our first Europe trip, and I want to take it in. So I spent a month in Europe almost, and I couldn't do this before with my restaurant business, Randy. So that's huge for me to stay so many times away. But I get a call from our friend. Well, first my sister goes, "Hey, Gene, what are you doing?" And like Janine, our good friend Janine, her baby daddy is the cameraman for J.J. Abrams. I'm like, oh, and then he's filming in London right now. And dude, what's your schedule? Like, well, whatever, dude. Like, what are you talking about? Hook me out with Janine. Janine goes, hey, what are you? So I meet up, and Serge, who's the cameraman, he's done all of JJ stuff.
Wow.
Super 8, all of his stuff, Star Trek. And he goes, Gene, you want to come by? I'm like, dude, hell yeah. So I get on a lot of Pinewood Studios, and I have to ask my wife permission because we're supposed to go to some museum or whatever. Right? Like, we're going because this is something I've always dreamed of since I was 4.5 years old, to be on a set of a Star Wars movie. It was Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Right
oh my
next
God.
to it was
Oh my
James
gosh.
Bond filming next door. And we were there. I couldn't take. I had to sign a non-disclosure. I couldn't. The only picture I took was outside that says Episode 7 on top. That's the only picture I could take from outside.
Right.
But when I went in there, it was that scene where they only had a few teasers for the movie, and I was in the forest scene where Finn is fighting Kylo Ren, right? And we're thinking Finn is a Jedi, but he's not, right? We don't know that. And then I see Kylo Ren's sword, the
that saber
sword,
was increíble.
right? And I was like, this is before they put it up. So I was like, what the hell is that? And then I'm watching it, and I'm watching the screens, and the AD guy goes, hey, you want to come closer and take a look at it while they're filming? So I go up on the platform, and where the monitor is, and from where I'm at, I'm behind this camouflage curtain that I can see out, but you can't see. Well, it's kind of camouflage, and they're fighting right in front of me. And the person next to me is Daily Ridley. I didn't even know who she was at the time. She's sitting right next to me.
Oh my God.
I'm like, what's going on here? Because the sword, and I'm being distracted because there's very little blue screen. It's all real I'm in the forest in the studio.
Wow.
Whoa. And then the stunt guy comes up, and the AD guy comes up, and he throws the sword at me and goes, here, catch. And I get to play
Oh my goodness.
with Kylo Ren's sword.
Oh my goodness.
I'm looking at this, and I goes, shit, this is the toy sword that you buy in the toy store. What the it's literally the toy sword. When you hit it, it changes colors. And then they do a lot of things afterward in post, I guess.
Yeah.
At this, and I'm like, dude, I'm a boy again. And because of the profession, right? Because of the profession, the dream, it's just cross that off my life list because
Yeah.
it was huge for me. So that's why layup, it's
I
crazy.
love it. I just love it. All right. So I started a new tradition a
Yes.
couple of episodes ago.
Oh,
The last question for every person who joins me is, would you please share the worst rejection you ever got or the worst presentation nightmare that ever happened to you? Just so people get to see, because they think, oh, these successful people, everything goes perfect for them. They never face any of these challenges that I'm going through. They just need to hear what we have all been through. So when I ask you that, what comes into mind?
okay. Let me see which ones. Let me go pick a number from my little box here. And there's so many, especially in the early in my career. But we still get them every once in a while, like just when things just don't go right. Um, I remember, I remember a long time ago when I was in the prior company prior, and this super A list, well, not A list, excuse me, this super talented person I was approaching to join the business. And I took all the notes like from our mentorship saying that, it's not a network marketing business, it's a, it's a new way of marketing. I was trying to be creative in my invite pitch. And I invited this person to our a one-to-one meeting with my sponsor. And the way I presented it was so good that it was so opposite from what I really wanted to happen. In other words, I was pitching that person, it would be a great partnership. We can do some great things. We could collab on some future videos, and we can do so much things to help your brand and to meet our brand. So I pitched like it was a $1 million company, and which it was a big company prior. And when that person found out it was network marketing, it was the worst thing ever. Holy shit. Maybe I should have been a little bit more upfront or handled it in a little different way. But I just got too excited because of the possibilities.
Uh-huh.
I forgot about being real. I forgot about just laying the cards all right. And sometimes it all depends on how you want to handle it and how we do. But for this individual, I think I put it up a little bit too much higher on a pedestal to make it come from that I was part of corporate. Does that make sense? So when
Yes,
I explained
totally,
it to them,
totally.
it was like, oh crap, that's not how I meant it. And then when they saw the circle drawings and when they saw the you could tell I'm like, oh crap, I made a mistake. That's not how I intended. And I was so embarrassed because I would see this person in the community all the time. And this person had a high level. And years went by and I got to know him better and better and better. And we never talked about it. And we kind of brushed it off and we're like, okay, I got you. And I
Let's
get
pretend it never happened.
pretend it never happened. And I appreciate that. And it was a learning lesson. And this is where I really realized, Gene, is not about you. It's your dream. But when you work with people, you're talking about what their dreams are, not yours. And I had to put myself away, put myself in a little canister, put it away, tuck it away, because that was a huge learning lesson for me. And I got so embarrassed at this. Every time I see him, like, oh, part of me is like, oh shit, like, oh, but at the same time, like, dude, just give me the hug or whatnot. It's a real embarrassment, and I keep it inside. And I don't think I told anybody about nobody. I told nobody about this, except my sponsor knows about this. But it's yeah, oh, man, that's so embarrassing, Randy. But yes, it's one of my most embarrassing moments. Absolutely.
And wonderful, wonderful learning lesson.
Yes, and that person was a big shot on our island, so that's pretty big. So,
My friend, I cannot thank you enough. This has been delightful and insightful, delicious and nutritious. I mean, really, it's I'm so jacked about the way this series is going. I had to go, I'm doing them every 10 days now. I just cannot. I had to declare calendar bankruptcy. It's so much work to do one episode of this that, so for people wondering, hey, what happened? We're actually doing them every 10 days now instead of once a week. But I'm just so jacked at the response it's doing in the community, in the profession. And it's because of the generosity of my partners each week. And that means you this week. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I appreciate Randy. I owe a lot to you, buddy. So anything I can do for you, bro, I got you. I got you, bro. Appreciate you.
All right, you guys watching, make sure you subscribe, make sure you tell your team about it, and spread this message out there. Have an amazing week, guys. Peace.
Love you, brother.
Hey guys, I'm back, and I just want to thank you for listening or watching and let you know if you made it this far, you are a serious, credible leader. You're somebody committed to success, professionalism, and honing your craft, sharpening your saw. So I want to recommend a resource to you. It's a monthly newsletter called MLM Confidential. Leadership lesson every month, duplication lesson every month, something we call the dish, which is kind of the industry news, what's going on in the space, who's moving where, what company's shutting down, what company's opening up, what is the, the dish, the dirt of what's really going on behind the scenes that maybe the average person doesn't know. And there's a personal challenge every month. So check it out, mlmconfidential.com. I'll see you next week.